If you like the Eldar jump shoot jump battle focus mechanic, then these guys appear to be taking it to the max with massive redeployments every turn. Let's talk about two of the trixiest aspect warriors from the new Aeldari Codex. Hello and welcome back to Warspecs Tactics, where today we're looking over a couple more leaked datasheets from the new Aeldari Codex, this time taking a look at another couple of aspect warriors whose rules I hadn't seen before now. I was wondering whether or not Swooping Hawks and Warp Spiders might be getting new models. Both of their kits are pretty ancient, particularly the Warp Spiders, but it would appear that they're not going to be redone at this stage, and they're going to remain as is for the time being. Currently, both of these aren't exactly the most competitive units out there, both units that felt like they were designed and costed for early 8th edition, and besides small units that could be used for actions and objectives, not really as relevant in more competitive craft world lists at the moment. It does seem that Games Workshop really have been trying to make every single aspect interesting though. The stat lines on these seem okay, but it's really their movement and redeployment options that make them look ridiculously strong. First up, we'll start with the Swooping Hawks, then move on to the Warp Spiders. According to the leaked playtester codex, it does appear that Hawks are a fast attack choice at 18 points per model, so going up by 2 points apiece compared with where they are previously. Their stat line doesn't see enormous changes, they remain very swift moving at 14 inches base. The only real stat line changes that they see are going up to 2 attacks apiece, and going up to a 5+ invul save above their regular 4-up armor. That's kind of expected, seeing as all the rest of the aspects appear to have got this. They are core infantry with the fly keyword, as expected, and they have all the special rules that you'd expect. Battle focus for the jump shoot jump ability that Games Workshop previewed, though it does appear to work quite differently for these guys compared with others. Being armed with assault weapons though, they do look like they could make good use of just the regular shooting benefit thing, being able to advance and shoot assault weapons without any penalty, so unless you're planning to use the jump shoot jump, you could potentially have them move 15 to 20 inches and not lose any accuracy. They also have Strands of Fate, could be good for locking in some big advances, auto saves or auto wounds, possibly not the highest value unit to use them on though, and they also get to deep strike for free in an ability called Sudden Assault. Weapons wise, previously their Achilles heel was kind of their Las Blaster's strength. It got 4 shots at strength 3, AP 0, damage 1. While that was respectable enough for the start of 8th edition, it really hasn't kept up with the times, and meant that they were kind of only ever a mediocre threat to toughness 3 infantry. The Las Blaster has seen a decent upgrade now though. It's still assault 4 and 24-inch range, but is strength 4, AP 0, damage 1 instead, and 6 to hit auto wound the enemy regardless of what target you are. It means a unit of 5 of these for 90 points should be spitting out 20 shots per turn. Normally that's going to be around 3 or 4 auto wounds right off the bat, and maybe something like an extra 5 wounds on toughness 4 targets like standard Space Marines or Necron Warriors. The wounds are all AP 0 damage 1, so still aren't going to be changing the world against anything other than lightly armoured targets, but they do seem like quite reliable shooting. The Hawk's Talon doesn't really seem to have changed all that much. It's a 10-point upgrade for the unit, at least in this current playtester version of the rules, and basically it has the exact same rules as the standard Las Blaster, with a bit more of a generalist profile at strength 5 AP -1, and again the 6 to hit auto wound thing. If that does remain at 10 points, I'm not really sure how convinced I am about that. Seems like it's kind of okay in terms of damage increase for the cost, though I think if people do run Swooping Hawks, it'll probably be just with the Las Blasters. At that points cost, I just don't think the Hawk's Talon looks like it's a very necessary upgrade. Maybe there might be a relic version that could make it worthwhile perhaps. Finally, there is the option for the Exarch to take the Power Sword, strength +1 and AP -3, maybe not too bad on his 3 attack profile, but again I think usually it isn't going to make the difference between whether this squad actually wants to charge a unit or not. With their very flimsy defensive profile, they're only likely to want to tangle with the lightest of enemy infantry. Even with a Power Sword, charging things like Space Marines just doesn't seem like a good idea at all. In terms of damage output and defense, I still think that they look kind of mediocre. They'll certainly stack a few wounds on the enemy, but they're going to be fairly bad against any hard targets, and even against light infantry, it doesn't feel like they're particularly outstanding. I think you are paying a premium for their massive mobility, and perhaps more importantly for this special rule that they have, Sky Leap, which on the face of it just appears to allow the Swooping Hawks to bounce about all over the board unrestricted. It says that in your shooting phase, instead of making a battle focus move with this unit, you can opt to remove the unit from the battlefield and set it up again anywhere on the battlefield that's more than 9 inches away from enemy models. At least in this playtester version, it doesn't look like it's once per game or anything like that. It just looks like it's the ultimate jump shoot jump. Basically jump out, fire off your Las Blasters, and then put yourself down somewhere absolutely safe from the enemy. Somewhere that you're likely to be able to get targets next turn with your big 14-inch move plus 24-inch range on your guns. I must admit this one does feel like a bit of a weird one. It kind of makes Swooping Hawks almost a zero interaction unit unless you've got some incredibly fast movements, basically able to jump out, fire off a bunch of guns, then put themselves about as safe as they could possibly be on the board, provided you're still going to have some sort of target next turn. To me that does seem like it could easily make up for their mediocre damage output, though I'm really not sure I like the rule if that's where it stands. It kind of feels like it could just be frustrating both for the Swooping Hawks player and their opponents. The Swooping Hawks are often going to do fairly mediocre damage output that's not going to mean all that much, and the opponent's just going to be annoyed by a unit that they have almost zero interaction against, unless they can put models down that threaten the Swooping Hawks no matter where they go on the board. If it does remain unchanged, I'm honestly not too sure how strong or weak that is. Let me know down in the comments if you think overall they would be worth taking if they do appear in the codex like this. Moving on though, let's talk about their fast attack partners in crime, the Warp Spiders, who again appear to have received a modest points bump for some much improved abilities. Their stat line has a 12-inch move, weapon skill and ballistic skill 3+, strength and toughness of 3, 1 wound, 2 attacks, leadership 8, and a 3+ save and a 5+ invul. Their points cost has increased from 18 points to 20, at least in this draft version. A few interesting changes there. They no longer have the very random movement on the warp jump generator, where they'd generally be able to move 46 inches. That's mercifully gone down just to a flat 12 inches, though that jump generator does give them a couple of interesting options. Otherwise, like the Swooping Hawks, they've also gained an extra attack and a 5+ invul save like all the rest of the aspects. They're core infantry that don't have the fly keyword, but they gain similar sort of rules to things like Grey Knight Interceptors, basically being able to teleport straight through things in the movement phase like terrain and units. And like the previewed Autarch rules, you get a battle focus move of 2d6 inches, so far better than their Eldar brethren at doing the jump shoot jump trick. Should mean that unless you roll spectacularly low, you should be able to safely fade in and out of terrain with ease. Though like the Autarch, if you roll a double 1 on that roll, one of them takes a mortal wound. Not exactly the worst thing ever though, as only 1 in every 36 jumps, and as Exarchs have 2 wounds each, you could just take that on the Exarch if you wanted to. Otherwise, like the Swooping Hawks, they do have Strands of Fate and Deep Strike, able to use their teleporters to pop up as if from nowhere. Weapons wise, I am really quite intrigued to see what actually winds up being the final Death Spinner profile in the codex. On the Leech playtester datasheet, they've got a 12-inch Assault D6 weapon with Strength 6, AP-2, Damage 1 and Blast. That in itself is really quite a decent improvement on the standard Death Spinner they have now. That one's only AP 0, though you do get a bit of bonus AP if you roll wound rolls of a 6+. In general, having flat AP-2 is almost always going to be superior to that. It's massively so against medium save, low toughness infantry. In general, against a lot of the most relevant targets, they are going to be about twice as deadly in shooting as they were before. It doesn't bear thinking about big units of 11+ being hit by these guys. Each one of them will be getting a massive 6 shots per spider. So for 100 points, you're potentially getting a ridiculous 30 strength 6 AP-2 damage 1 shots. That's really going to shred most hordes under waves of monofilaments. Perhaps one of the weirdest things though is the difference between this and the Autarch's profile. The Autarch, as we saw previously, had a Death Spinner that also had the auto hit rule. So essentially the same profile about this, but saying that you never needed to roll a hit roll for it, it just hit automatically. Interestingly, this Leech playtester version doesn't have that, and nor does the version that they previewed on Warhammer Community yesterday. It makes me wonder if the datasheets that were included in the Eldritch Omens box set might have been decided at a much earlier date. They initially let all the Warp Spiders have auto-hitting guns at Strength 6 AP-2, but then maybe decided that was a little bit too overpowered, and decided that Death Spinners didn't need to auto-hit. Obviously that'll make a big difference as to how strong the unit is. The Exarch still seems to be able to take this loadout on the right here, the one with the dual power blades and Death Spinners. That loadout costs an extra 10 points. Seems like it's a pretty decent include just for the Death Spinner alone, plus those power blades should give you AP-2 attacks and an extra attack if the profile does remain the same as it is in the current codex. It seems to have been left off the Leech datasheet. Finally, just as one extra move of Warp Spider trickery, as well as their jump shoot jump thing, they also have this flicker jump rule. This means as well as having some shooting protection, they also have some very decent charge protection as well. The flicker jump rule means that when they're charged, they can immediately make a normal move up to 6 inches. Due to it being a normal move, it means that they won't be able to use it if they're in engagement range. They can only do it once per turn, and they can't overwatch. It really is quite a fun one, this one. It means that if they're trying to charge you from a fair distance away, there's a good chance you might be able to make your Warp Spiders unchargeable. Even if you're charging from right up close, you're not going to be able to guarantee that charge, and you might well be able to do other gamey things, maybe like hiding them in difficult terrain so they take a -2 penalty, or even springing forward towards the enemy to block their movement and maybe stopping them from getting on an objective even if they wipe the unit. Overall, it does seem like it's a bit of a return to form for the Warp Spiders. Renowned for their jump, shoot, jump and frustrating mechanics in previous codexes, it seems that's going to be a very good reflection of what they can do now. It looks like their damage output is far better than the Swooping Hawks, and still have some very powerful movement and damage denial tricks, but not quite the insane repositioning of that Skyleap rule. So as always, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Which of these guys do you think is looking stronger in the new codex? Do you feel that Skyleap rule will make it into the new codex unchanged? As always, I look forward to hearing what you have to say. If you've enjoyed the video, feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics, where I will certainly keep the regular 40k videos coming, with new ones out just about every day. I'll be looking forward to covering the Aeldari Codex in full. I suspect we'll also be seeing the full rules previewed in a 10 days time or so. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention that Auspex Tactics does have a Patreon page, and you can find that down in the video description. The channel's Patreon is what gives me the amount of time that I need to keep on making these videos as a full-time thing. If you have been enjoying all the content lately, any support is enormously appreciated. Channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things happen next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways, with the chance to win some really big model kits every month. This month's giveaway is for that Eldritch Omens box set, and can be entered in the usual way either on the Patreon or on the Facebook page. In any case, the links are down in the video description if you're interested. A massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.